जितनी दिलचस्प उनके रिसाले की सुर्खियां हैं, उससे कहीं ज्यादा दिलचस्प उनकी जिंदगी की कहानी है। जिंदगी की हर मुश्किल को आजमाइश मान के वो हर मोड़ पे खड़ी उतरी हैं। शुरुआत चाहे जितनी भी मुश्किल हो, राजगिरण ने अपनी मेहनत, मुशक्कत और ईमान से अनोखी मैगजीन को कनाडा के सबसे कामयाब मैगजीनों की फहरिस्त में शामिल कर दिया है। आज मस्त वन में हमारी मेहमान है अनोखी मैगजीन की पब्लिशर राजगिरण। तो ख़वातीन हज़रात, आइए चल के बात करते हैं एक ऐसी शख्सियत है जिनकी ज़िंदगी की कहानी में इतने रंग है जितनी उनके फैशन स्टेटमेंट्स में है। राज, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस ऑन मस्ट वन।
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
तो पहली बात तो मैं आपको ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि भाई आपकी जो अंग्रेज़ी के एक्सेंट है मुझे इतनी पसंद है कि मैं कहता हूँ कि आप अंग्रेज़ी में मुझे गाली गलौज भी कहते हैं, मुझे शायरी लगेगी बिल्कुल।
It's true. It's funny that you say that because people say that, especially here in Canada.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh my gosh, did you just curse?" And I said, I think I did. And they said, "It doesn't even sound like a swear word. It's it's so posh. I mean, say it again, you know."
Honestly, आप बस बात करते दीजिए, मैं सुनते रहता हूँ. It sounds amazing.
First of all, Anoki Magazine, how did it all begin? What's the story behind it?
Well, I got divorced when I was 30 and sat down one day and I thought to myself, I have a 2-year-old son, I'm divorced, I'm a single parent, I'm not very happy with the choices that I'm currently dealing with. I need to do something that will allow me to feel proud of myself so that one day when my son grows up, he can look at me and say, my mum rocks. And I didn't feel that when that was happening. It's really funny because personally I meditate every day.
Yeah.
And it helps to ground and center me. I mean, one of these people that doesn't need hardly any sleep. I get up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
And I sit down and meditate before I start my day. And one day I was sitting there and it was 4 a.m. and I just asked God the question. I says, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Because I don't have a clue. And the funny thing is, the next day I woke up the next morning and I thought to myself, I meant to start a media company for my community that represents them the way that they truly live.
Right.
And not the way that people translate our culture to be on other forms of media that weren't started or run by people from our own community.
Yeah.
So that was really important to me. And that kind of is where everything started. I knew that my journey was guided. I didn't know where I was going,
right,
but I knew it was guided, so I kept going.
Now, that holistic perspective that Anoki is kind of almost renowned for, it almost feels as if you were preparing for that your entire life. I mean, caterer, sort of almost assisting your parents, part-time caterer, aspiring performer, award-winning dental hygienist, if I can call you that.
Thank you.
All of those roles, but never ever, from the publishing family altogether. Were you nervous being a single mom, at 30, now becoming an entrepreneur for a field of business which you had never been a part of before?
The single most fearful thing I've ever done in my life is to get divorced as a South Asian woman in my culture. Nothing has ever put me through that fear and the associated taboo and the oh my God, look at her. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest fear I've ever had to face. And then the fear of I can't mess up now, because now I don't have that support system that you're used to having. I mean, I came from my father's home and just came out of my husband's home, and now I'm this woman by myself, and I'd always been used to having a male figure of some sort.
Right.
I mean, it's how we're brought up. There's nothing right or wrong with it.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And now I didn't have that figure, yet I had a little boy that I needed to bring up, and I think that when you're a parent, especially when you're a mother, there's this instinct that you have where you want to protect your own, right? And a part of my protection mechanism was I needed to not fail as a woman, as who I was. And I knew that everything else will just somehow fall into place as long as my intention was right. Somehow it just comes from somewhere. And when your intentions are corrupt or wrong or there to harm people, it comes back at you. And the same goes for positive thinking and your intention being good. And I have to say, when I look back over the almost 10 years that Anoki has been around, that that truly has been the case with us. So we never really knew all the time what the next step was going to be for Anoki. A lot of it came about organically. I mean, you know, society dictates a lot of what happens. How, you know, how much your community supports you as a media. We really listen.
Right.
And we've always listened to what our community says they want from us. And I think that's why our media, whether it's, you know, the print, the media, the social media, the online, or the events, the reason why they're always so successful and why people are always so engaged is because we recognize what's important to them, and we give it to them, and hopefully we give them a little bit extra that they're not expecting, that they appreciate.
Absolutely. So why a South Asian magazine, and why do you think, I mean, it's hard to ask you because you came up with the idea, but why do you think Anoki is so successful?
So the first part of that question is reason why I decided to do South Asian content media, simply because there wasn't anyone doing it, and the community was there, rapidly growing. It's the largest, fastest growing ethnic community, has a purchasing power of $38 billion that advertisers are not recognizing. And so the challenge with me with Anoki, knowing that this was a media for the South Asian demographic, was trying to, on one side, bring content of relevance consistently and of quality to my community, but also so that there was a crossover mass appeal to what it was. It was predominantly always been about recognizing my community for the community, but also the secondary objective was always about ensuring that anyone that's interested in what's going on in our community, fashion, spirituality, politics, everything that we do, Bollywood, I mean, it's all there. We would be the go-to to acquire that information.
For sure.
So there's always that two-pronged approach for us in terms of Anoki.
Right.
So we've been talking a lot about business. I kind of want to just kind of focus a little bit on you as well. What I want to know is, you know, looking at you, I think, you know, there is Anoki and then there's Rajgurn, you know, and I think that the two are synonymous a lot of times, but you have an identity of your own. I think that, you know, with OpenChest, with the persona of Rajgurn herself, it speaks for itself.
Thank you.
Being the girl from Leicester, England, you know, really traditional, arranged marriage, very young. Was this persona there before Anoki came in, or was this high fashion, high life living Rajgurn invented as Anoki was developing?
I think the best way for me to answer that question was, there was one part, I mean, we're all multifaceted as humans, right? And there was one part of my personality that was very entrenched in the culture and the fear factor associated with doing anything that wasn't confined within what was expected and what was normal. And then there was that other side of me, it's almost like the flip to the coin.
The yin, the yang.
Yeah, where there's that whole other side of me where I had this yearning to go out and be, you know, and try things, being that I'm an artist at heart, you know. I went out, I used to, you know, write songs, and I even had a couple of recording deals come my way when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
But because I was underage, I had to get my parents' authority.
And that wasn't going to happen.
That was not going to happen. That was not going to happen. So there was that I think it's that perpetual, as you put it, yin and yang that every human deals with. There's that conformist component of our personality, and then there's that wild, crazy side of us. Right? One thing I've been able to successfully do, but it's been a very organic process for me, and it's still something that is of a process for me, is that I've been able to find the balance that works to bring in both.
Right.
And I think it's that realness and that honesty that people resonate towards, especially with OpenChest.
Absolutely. I want to talk about OpenChest. Having seen some of your interviews, very, very easy to see how comfortable you can make your guests feel. I've seen the Frito Pinto interview, the Jay Sean. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that. And there's so much comfortability within that. How do you create that with celebrities that sometimes do have their guard up?
I walk in there not allowing that to happen. Because celebrities are very media trained, right? So you know, if you create an environment for them whereby you feed into that, there's a power struggle that takes place, right, between the interviewer and the person that's being interviewed. I always set an environment that, number one, is informal, and I know that they're comfortable with. Like with the Jay Sean, we were in the back of the limo. So
yeah.
he's in his space, right? With Frida, we're in the hotel room. She's in her
and both
space.
Absolutely comfortable, relaxed, just themselves. It's amazing to see.
I think it comes also from my British upbringing, you know, because we're very informal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, British people are very informal, and they're like, you know, how you doing, blah, 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 and you're just constantly talking about stuff. So that's always been my approach with everyone, to be very honest.
And I think sometimes celebrities need that, just somebody who can approach them and be like, you know what, I'm here for the real you know?
Yeah.
And
I don't sit there and put them on a platform. They know they're on their platform. I don't need to tell them that. Right? So I walk in there like, you know, I am who I am, you are who you are. Let's have a fab conversation. Let's have, the few moments that we get to spend together, let it be positive for both of us. And that really resonates, I think.
I really like that. Let it be positive for both of us. I think ये positivity की जो जर्नी है उसे हम जारी करेंगे, पर एक छोटी सी ब्रेक के बाद भाई बहुत सारी बातें करनी है राजगिरण के साथ। एक ऐतिहासिक जो एक मतलब जो कहानी है उनकी करियर की, उनकी जिंदगी की, उसके बारे में थोड़े और जानेंगे, उनके पन्ने और थोड़े पलटाएंगे, पर वो ये सब होगा एक छोटी सी ब्रेक के बाद। तो आप कहीं ना जाएगा क्योंकि हम अभी गए
और अभी आए।